Hello, YouTubers! Welcome to Big Buddha is Watching. I'm Big Buddha, and today I'm going to be looking at Land of the Dead, George A. Romero's fourth film in his series of six zombie movies that he made between the years 1968 and 2010, starting with Night of the Living Dead and ending with Survival of the Dead. This is the fourth instalment, the first in 20 years. So he really broke with his rule of making one of these every decade or so. So we missed out on the mid to late 90s zombie movie and the social satire inherent in all those films. What that would have been, I don't know. I mean, the late 90s is a weird time because there really wasn't that much going on of any note really on the global political scene. You know, the most newsworthy event of the time was really Monica Gate in the Clinton administration. So maybe that was part of the reason that Romero felt that there wasn't really much there to sink his teeth into, no pun intended. Also, zombie movies really had fallen out of favour. They just weren't being made in the late 90s. I kind of felt that I was pretty much the only person watching zombie movies at the time. So we had to wait till 2005 to get the fourth installment in the series, and of course, you know, by 2005, 9/11 had happened. It was a different world by then than what it was in the late 90s, and so there was far more there for there was the ground to make an apocalyptic movie was far more ripe for comment and satire at the time, and so it was it seemed to make more sense to wait just a few more years. So that's why there was a 20-year wait between these two films, and then instead of the usual 10. Of course, after that, then we only got 2 years apart from for the next two installments. I think Romero, like Malik now, has realised he's not getting any older, and it's really not benefiting what he wants to say to be as not as prolific as he was in the past. What's the opposite of prolific? I feel like there should be a word for that. Um, so the you get the final two installments, which kind of feel a little churned out. But this film was really it was really kind of 20 years in the making, and apparently it does utilize elements from the unused Day of the Dead script that I mentioned in the previous video. You know, there was meant to be this whole extra element in Day of the Dead of the human characters discovering the rich elite who have set up home somewhere and have walled themselves off from the rest of the world and to keep the infestation out, and that is pretty much the basis for this film. Here it's a city that the rich have basically commandeered for themselves. It's surrounded by a body of water, sort of on three sides, and on the fourth side you have a whole fenced off area, patrolled by militia guard, and you get various factions still going out into no man's land where the infestation is still very much rife and scavenging what they can and bringing it back. Yes. So you know the elements for I mean that's one thing that's really worth seeing for this film for is in a way, this really is. You could watch Day and Dawn and Land all as one film, because that's really what they were intended to be. The story the story elements in both really were meant to be one film at one point. This is and another reason we had to wait 20 years for this film is we really had to wait for the zombie movie to come back in fashion. 2002, you got 28 Days Later, which really kick-started the whole. Or was it two? Might have been earlier than that. Well, you got 28 Days Later, and then you got Shaun of the Dead, and you got Zack Snyder's remake. Oh, and Resident Evil, the movie franchise, of course. I think the big sort of thing that really convinced Hollywood that this thing might be worth putting money into, a new Romero film, was the remake, Zack Snyder's 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead, which was a big hit at the box office. And 12 months later, you got Land hitting in theatres, and I think that's interesting, if only because I can't think of another example of another installment, a sequel to a previous film coming along after the franchise has been rebooted. I mean, if you can think of another example, let me know. But I'm struggling to think of. And I'm sure it won't be the last. I think this is something that will happen again in the future. Maybe we'll get a franchise that's rebooted and the audience just doesn't chime with the reboot at all. But they want to make further installments because the franchise is profitable. So somebody will eventually hit on the idea. Well, why don't we just make further installments in the original canon? Because that's where audiences seem to really respond to the franchise. So, but what that franchise will be, I don't know. I would put good money on seeing another Christian Bale, Chris Nolan Batman movie one day. That's just me. But of course, when it happens, everyone will be saying, "Oh, this is the first time this has happened, that Hollywood has made this bold step," and I'll be there. Nah, remember Land of the Dead? Yeah, that's where it all kicked off. Well, maybe not kicked off, but this film, it has the biggest budget of all the films. This is really the one where Romero went to Hollywood. All the first two you could call independent features. The third one was made with studio money, but not a lot of studio money, and not one of the big studios. This film had a $20 million budget, and you can see the studio's thumbprint on this. This isn't strictly just an entirely Romero-led project. For the simple fact that this is the only one in the franchise where you really get big name stars. You only get a couple. The cast is relatively unknown. The main character, Simon Baker. He's a TV star. He stars in The Mentalist. But you also get in this film John Leguizamo and Dennis Hopper playing prevalent roles, and these are two of the biggest names to grace any of these films. And I'm guessing that it was one of the conditions laid on to him by the studio. I keep saying the studio. I forget really who produced this film. Atmosphere Entertainment. Not a massive studio then. Oh, they're the production company. Oh, Universal. Yeah, there we go. So I'm guessing that this is one of the stipulations put on him by Universal, saying, "Look, we'll give you money, we'll give you a hefty budget, you know, not a blockbuster budget, but enough money to make a good looking zombie movie, and but you've got to have stars in this. You've got to have some actors that people recognise." And it's funny that. Although they were named actors, you know, I do think Leguizamo and Hopper do fit into the Romero universe quite well. There's something about their quality they have that you know that's makes them sit beside the more lesser known actors of the previous installments. You know, Sherman Howard. Joseph Pilato, for example, you know they although they're famous actors, they feel sort of cut from the same sort of cloth when it comes to persona and acting style. Although you know Leguizamo essentially plays the Rhodes character in this. Well, he's not quite as manic and quite the bastard that he is, but he still is the ethically dubious military leader in this, the cast out son, if you like, to the Dennis Hopper's father figure. He's no Rhodes, you know. The character isn't nearly as entertaining. You know, Leguizamo's great in the film, but he just doesn't have the entertainment factor for me. So the zombie effects and the makeup in this were all done by Greg Nicotero, okay? Not Nick Nicotero, as I said, Nick Nicotero, as if anyone's going to be called Nick Nicotero. It's Greg Nicotero who's the main man in the effects world, and the main man when it came to doing all the prosthetics in this film. And I apologise to him for getting his name wrong. I'm sure legions of horror fans would be shouting at the last video when I did that. Greg Nicotero, yeah, great work on him. I still think the finest looking zombies in all the films were in Day of the Dead, but in this film they look great. You know, they look really polished, and you know, obviously Greg Nicotero is well into his career, so he really knew what he was doing with this stuff, and you can still see that there is a great love for this kind of practical effects makeup work there that's sadly dwindling more and more. Tom Savini, I don't think was as hands-on in the effects work in this film. But he does have a cameo, and quite a cheeky cameo in this, because they thought, it'd be nice to throw Tom Savini in as a cameo. And apparently Romero has a rule with all these films that none of the characters will be held over from the previous films, but they rather cheekily got Savini into this, and of course they I don't know if it was actually known to Romero, but they made him up to look like the biker character from Dawn, so they made out that he was the same character. They even gave him, because apparently Savini had broken his nose and had it fixed between the two films, and they even gave him a prosthetic nose to make it look slightly more like his appearance in in Dawn. But apparently this was an in-joke from the makeup department, and not the intention of Romero for that to be the same character. Apparently they had I don't, not a rough time, but they said they did the effects guys, the makeup guys, didn't enjoy making this film as much as Day, for the simple reason that the zombie extras in Day were all fans of the series. They were all members of the fan club that they were just invited down, and they absolutely had a ball of a time getting made up and in the zombie makeup and playing zombies for a day. Apparently, that wasn't the case in this film. They couldn't get those guys again who were so game in Day of the Dead because they were shooting in Canada this time. That they had to get they couldn't get the work permits for those guys, so they had to get union guys in Canada, and apparently a lot of them were not up for wearing the prosthetics and the grosser stuff. So they had a bit of a harder time with the extras in this. But hey, you've been in a movie, you're still being paid, slap on your face whatever those guys tell you, you're there to realise their vision. So I think the effects work and the makeup does look good in this. It holds up to all the other films. It's the squibs that let it down for me. All the other films when a character or a zombie gets shot, whether in the face or in the chest, it was real blood squirting out of them. Here we have something that's Romero started to rely more and more on in the next two films, which is the CGI blood, the CGI squibs, which it's effective in that it looks like someone's getting shot. It tells the story the way you want it to, but it just doesn't have the same visceralness of is visceralness a word? The same visceral quality as real practical blood. I can understand from a practical standpoint, filming it. If you wanted to do retakes, it's probably easier to say, oh, we'll put the blood in post. Otherwise, if a shot doesn't look quite as good, then it's easier to just refilm the action, and if you've got real squibs, then it's probably half an hour getting changed into a new costume or cleaning up the actors before you can do a retake. So maybe it was just practical reasons and for that, but you can tell, you can tell it's CGI blood. You can tell it's not really there. You can always tell CGI. I don't think CGI will ever be seamless because you can't really fool the eye. You can make something that sort of approximates reality, but you'll never make something that's totally convincing as reality. I don't think. Have I mentioned the 9/11? I think, like I said, one of the reasons that this film didn't get made in the late 90s was that there was nothing really going on. But have I said this already? I think I have. If there's any social satire in this film and social commentary, it's the 9/11 parallels, really. But I think what these films really do well is sort of encapsulate the feeling of the era that they were made in, if not necessarily overtly referring to them. And at the centre of this film, you have basically a city under siege, and that was the general feeling of behind 9/11, which was that it felt like New York was under siege from an anarchic, out of control element, and so that's really whether I guess that was intentional in Romero's writing, that he wanted to make something. That was his way of making this film feel contemporary, which was. And the way he does it with all the films, which is about speaking about the times that they were made in, not overtly, but through the subtext. So that the 9/11 parallels are there, but I mean, the 9/11 parallels are there in every film made between 2002 and 2006, I'd say, or maybe even longer than that. I think the 9/11 really informed the way movies looked and felt and what they talked about for the whole of the noughties. The same way that the Reagan era sort of informed what the 80s in any geopolitical situation, I think ultimately ends up informing what entertainment looks and feels like in the long run. We still don't know really. We're still yet to process what the Trump era will really mean when it comes to storytelling. I think we're still discovering and finding that out, and we probably won't know until till 10 years time. When we look back and go, okay, yeah, that was Trump. That was what inspired that. So, but yeah, a bit of a tangent there. This cat is absolutely doing my head in. Zombies fire guns in this film. You get like in Day, you get amidst the horde, you really get one central character, a zombie. It was Bub in the last film. Here it's the African American in a twist in this film is the zombie character, and he really, through a wordless performance, he kind of leads the revolution, leads the siege of the city, and he's the first zombie to pick up a gun and start firing it. I know people who hadn't seen Dead had a hard time with this element of zombies learning to fire guns, but Romero tries to allude to the sort of the same beats that they did in the last film. The construction worker zombie, at one point he picks up one of the old road drills and sort of indicates that he tries to use it and indicates that zombies have a kind of sense memory of their previous life, and so therefore it could make sense that a zombie could pick up a gun and fire it. But it's really, like I say, it's really made more clear if you watch Day of the Dead and Land of the Dead sequentially. So whether that makes it any sort of slightly less ridiculous to know that that's kind of now laid into the mythology or not, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really mentioned how I feel about this film. It's after the first three, I think it's really the lesser of in the series so far. Isn't that always the case in the fourth installment of a series? Romero, I think this time he was kind of left a little superseded by the pretenders to his throne, Edgar Wright and Zack Snyder making essentially what were homages to his earlier work, and filling them with much more energy and vitality than he was. I think when you get an older filmmaker returning to the franchise that relaunched, and there's a danger there that you can more often than not you get a kind of tired version of what they did before. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is an example. Most of the time I'd say that's the case, which is why I was really surprised that how much I enjoyed Mad Max Fury Road and how much energy there was in that film. That's a film that I still can't believe a 65-year-old man made, because it feels like the film made by a 30-year-old, but this very much falls prey to that. It feels like an old man trying to relive the glories of his youth, and then again, Romero, after this, he fell into the similar trap of releasing a film that didn't feel like it won the critical and plaudits or the audience respect that his previous efforts had, but wanted to go, no, I can still do this, and then churned out two more efforts which also felt increasingly lame. It's not terrible, but just overall it's just a bit dull. That's really all I can say. So I'll wrap this up now, but I've still got Diary and Survival to do. Diary I watched last night for the first time, and that will be the next video. Then Survival, and then I'll maybe talk about something other than zombies for a bit. I mean, there is a whole wealth of other zombie movies I can do, but I'm feeling a bit zombie fatigued just for the moment. So maybe I'll do some more, but maybe I'll pepper them out with reviews of other stuff that I watched. So until then, this is me, Big Buddha, signing off, and I shall see all you folks out there in YouTube land.